Oh boy. Hey. So I'm Scott McDonnell. I'm the Dane County Clerk, McDonnell, McDonnell. And this is Mary Beth Witzelbeal. And you are the Madison City Clerk. And this is our media availability. I'll just say a few words quick. So far, I was just got off a Zoom call with the municipal clerks in Dane County. They did not report any problems at the polls. There's steady lines. The observers have all been behaving well, which is what we expected, and that's what's happening. So we're very encouraged by that so far. Usually this is when I get asked about turnout. It's really hard to determine turnout when you have half of the ballots being in-person absentee, because you don't know how quickly they've been able to process those absentees. So the numbers could be a third of the absentees, it could be half. So it's hard to really give a good number on that at this point, but it seems like it'll be high. And why don't you say a few words and then we'll take questions.
Sure. So in the city of Madison, we have polling places call in at 11 o'clock with their numbers. We are still trying to reach 29 of those wards because they were too busy to report their numbers. So with 29 wards outstanding, we know we had 42,850 voters as of 11 o'clock. 13,152 of those were absentees that had been processed. And with those wards outstanding, we were looking at 22% turnout as of 11 o'clock. But some of the outstanding wards were some of our largest wards. So that number is, of course, not accurate. It's incomplete. And we're calling those polling places to get those missing numbers.
Yeah, so questions from you guys?
Could you remind me again when you guys can start counting absentee ballots?
You can start opening and processing absentees when polls open.
Okay.
So at 7. Yeah, unfortunately that law did not pass. That would have allowed us to get a jump on it. So I'm still bitter, if you can't tell. Anything else from you guys? Yeah.
Could you explain the process of opening up the absentee ballots, how long it takes some volunteers to process everything, to get an idea of what it takes?
Sure, I'll let Mary Beth go through it, but.
We have teams of poll workers check that the absentee certificate is complete, and they check the absentee voter's name against the ineligible voter list. And then they each carry 3 to 5 absentee envelopes at a time to the poll book, announce those voters' names and addresses, just like the voter would do if the voter was there in person. Each of those voters gets assigned a voter slip number, and then the poll workers open those envelopes and process those ballots, feed them into the tabulator to be counted.
Do you have an idea of when all Madison precincts will be in?
As efficiently as we can without sacrificing accuracy.
You know when you do the, you vote on the screen, like early voting, that creates a paper ballot.
Yes.
Is it like the same, do you feed those in the tabulator too, like with the absentee ballot?
Yeah, you just have to square it center on it, and it takes it the same way as the larger ballot.
I see, but those aren't counted either.
Yeah, they're all the same. I mean, from a legal point of view, they're the same thing. Yeah. And I will just say we'll get a bunch of results before midnight. We'll have a lot of it, but not all of it. That's just how it goes. So we post results when we get them. So if I get, a smaller township at 9, we'll put it right on the web, so you'll see it. That total includes all the absentee ballots. So we are different than Milwaukee. Milwaukee has central count, and so does other places like Green Bay, Janesville, where they have 2 totals that they then put together. We don't. When you see that number, that's the number. And so generally, you'll see the national people are able to just, like, if we have 50% of the wards in, and that's all of it for those wards, they kind of extrapolate out and able to come up with their numbers. So that's what I understand anyway.
Is there anything else you could add, Mary Beth, about the wards that were too busy to report? There was a number that you mentioned. There was 20-some wards that said they were too busy to report in at 11 o'clock. Is this typical? Can you give us some context here as to when else this has been the case?
Every single election, when we have our call-ins, there are wards that will just forget to report those numbers because they're so busy, and then we call them, and when we reach them, they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that it was 11 o'clock. We were so busy with registrations or answering voter questions." So that's typical to not have all of our numbers in right away at 11.
When you say no problem so far, workers not showing up, that kind of covers everything.
We've had some poll workers who had to call in, as we always do. We had a tabulator that I think we swapped out because we were getting some ballot jams, but nothing really notable or out of the ordinary today.
I'm hearing reports of higher numbers of day of registration. Could you speak to that? Do we have numbers about how many people have registered day of?
I don't have numbers of how many people register each hour during the day. That's not something we ask our polling places to report when they call in their numbers. We have them call in and tell us how many voters they've had and how many absentees they've processed, because we want to make sure they have enough ballots. So we're just trying to determine whether we need to send them more ballots, and to determine whether they're getting through processing their absentees. If they are not making progress on that, we send them additional poll workers to help make sure the results are posted as soon as possible after the close of the polls.
You said the last call was at 11. For those 29 that haven't reported, are you planning on calling them again, checking in, and at what time?
For the polling places we haven't heard from yet, right now, clerk's office personnel are calling those polling places to try to get the 11 o'clock numbers.
Scott, I wanted to clarify something that you said on our program earlier this morning. You were expecting record, we can see record turnout today. I mean, is that record for a presidential election or a governor's election? I mean, 2018 was very high turnout for the governor's election. Could you specify what type of record we may set today for turnout?
Yeah, I guess I'd say what I expect is a record number of votes. So we've gained 38,000 people in this county since the last presidential election. So because we have that sort of pace, we tend to break the record from the last presidential, unless people just don't vote that year. But I'm expecting you'll see the raw numbers higher than 4 years ago.
Does that put more stress on your office or more stress on the system as the county grows to process more ballots, more votes?
I don't know. I think one of the things we tried to do is make sure that we don't let polling places get too large. So you'll see like McFarland, they were for a long time using one polling location and they just kept growing. And so now they split that into two. Town of Middleton, I think maybe you guys remember they had lines a few years ago that were problematic. They've split into two. They're very happy with that. So that Cottage Grove is split. So we're just trying to make sure when, Cottage Grove, they add a neighborhood every like 4 days or something. So, we got to make sure that we're keeping up and not letting these polling places get too large.
And that 38,000.
We'll hear and then.
38,000 number, is that eligible voters or just residents in general?
Just the growth, population growth, yeah.
Some of these downtown polling locations this morning got lines that were 30 minutes. Do you think that in the near future that some of these downtown locations will have to also split off to even more?
Well, I'll let you can mention that too, but I think you are seeing a lot of these high rises go up, and so we anticipate that and add polling locations where needed. And but I will say, if you follow election queue theory, the longest lines are in the morning because it lines up, and then maybe at the end of the evening when people are getting off work. But we've heard from around the county that lines are very manageable, and I think that relates to 50% essentially, or close to it, of absentee ballots having already been cast. So those people are not in line. Now what a lot of communities do is they'll have one machine that is where in person are voting and putting their ballot in, another one that's dedicated to absentees. So no one they don't have to wait to put an absentee in until there's no one at the scanner. So that's really helped as we've had more of these machines around the county speed it up. That makes sense?
In the past couple of months, even today, have there been any threats or anything like that of violence in city county offices that you know of, or online, mail, phone calls, anything like that that you've gotten from the public?
I haven't had to deal with anything. I haven't talked to the police. We were there. We have, again, a Zoom call where we have everybody on it, the clerks, emergency management, the sheriff, kind of everyone's on there, and we haven't had to deal with any issues today. So that's great. I mean, we're really excited. We've done a lot of planning, worrying about different scenarios, so I probably just jinxed it, but so far it's been really smooth. And I think, yeah, it's been good. I'm happy. Are you happy? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we'll be up here again later. Yep.